Welcome back to the show, folks. My name is Scott, and this is the Terranadome. This week, we'll be briefly recapping the 6 games from Wildcard weekend in the NFL playoffs, including how we did on our picks and our bets. Then we'll preview the 4 games this weekend as the divisional round starts tomorrow afternoon in Kansas City. More picks and bets on the way during that segment. And finally, we'll talk a little bit more about the coaching carousel in the NFL, as the New England Patriots have indeed hired former All-Pro, Team Hall of Famer, and 3-time Super Bowl champion Mike Vrabel as the team's head coach. Called that one last week. Told you we'd be talking about it this week. That's exactly what happened. Maybe one or two more items if we have the time for it. But either way, it's the old Terranadome, and it starts right now. First of all, what the hell are you talking about, dude? Second of all, okay, I think I understand what you're talking about. What you're saying is that you took the words right out of my mouth. I didn't say it, but you said it for me. You, Gerard Mayo, sir, are so far in over your head. Just freaking, you should resign. You should resign. Sorry, we went on vacation in 2019, and I said he's gotta be my coach. Okay, fine. He picked him 5 years ago. You know what Robert Kraft did after that? You want to know what he did after? He went to the Orchids of Asia. He was gallivanting at the Orchids of Asia. He was getting happy endings in a massage parlor from, let's be polite, professional masseuses. Welcome to Terranadome. During the bye week, they practiced one time. That's it.
Come after me. I'm a man. I'm 40.
Well, folks, it is another edition of the old Terranadomes, January 17, 2025. Josh Morris is back on the show, thankfully, this week. I wasn't sure if he was going to make it, but he's here. Josh, how you holding up, bud?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well.
Yeah, is that true, or is that just what you're going to tell me?
No, not enough time to complain anyway. We're good.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, right. Everybody's got complaints, right? So let's just get right into this. I think we're just going to fly bang, bang, bang. First, we'll talk about this week's games coming up later on, but we do want to do a little bit of a recap on Wild Card Weekend. You and I joined up to watch a couple of these games, and we picked Saturday, and we didn't really get a good game at all from either of them. We'll just go in order how the games were done this weekend, basically. So we'll start with the 5 seed in the AFC, the LA Chargers at the 4 seed NAFC South, winning Houston Texans. Definitely thought this one would be closer, and I think we both thought that the Chargers would win this game. Instead, it goes 32-12 Houston. Constant pressure on quarterback Justin Herbert in this game led him to throwing 4 interceptions. He was sacked 4 times. He was hit 9 times. That's a lot of abuse for one game for a quarterback. Just 14 out of 32 for 242 and a touchdown. That touchdown was to your boy, Ladd McConkey, 86-yarder right there. That cut it to 23-12 in the fourth. Houston did start off slow in this game as the Chargers had a 6-0 lead on a couple field goals after the first. Ultimately, not a highly competitive game thanks to Houston's best weapon. That'd be their pass rush, something that you pointed out all year. You said they're not a real contender like you think they are, Scott, but their pass rush is for real, and that definitely showed up in this game last Saturday. CJ Stroud, 22 of 33 for 282, a touchdown and an interception. Joe Mixon, 106 yards on the ground and a score. Nico Collins, took him a little while to get going, but the Chargers really had no answer for him. 7 catches for 122 yards and a touchdown for the Texans. Basically borderline elite wide receiver, I would say, at this point. First game of the weekend, so Houston not yet knowing who they were going to face next. We will get to that later. Justin Herbert, I think we can all agree is a great quarterback, or at least a very, very good quarterback, right? But now 0-2 in the playoffs in his career, and a 41-40 career record as the starting quarterback, including the playoffs. But I do think the Chargers, still a young team, obviously. Young team on the rise. They're going to get more depth. I think depth was a real issue for them offensively. It definitely showed up in this game. Other than Ladd McConkey, they really couldn't get anything going in the passing game. They'll be back. I think they'll be back next year. I think they'll be better next year. What did you make of your Chargers, and what did you think of the Texans in this one? Because the Texans definitely impressed us. I think both of us more than we expected. The Texans brought it, and we didn't expect them to.
Yeah, for sure. And I also think maybe the inexperience of some of those like younger LA Charger guys that I want to say they had two or three drop passes that led to interceptions. Like we watched that one go right through McConkey's hand. I'm pretty sure Disley had two of them
Yeah,
pop right out of his
Disley.
hands, right into another guy's arms. You know what I mean? So it's like I wonder if like being inexperienced got to them. You know what I mean? Like the stage was a little too big for them. And I think you're definitely right. They need offensive weapons. So I think that'll be like something they're really honed in on in the offseason. They're gonna have to get someone that, besides McConkey that Herbert can rely on. Because I mean you just can't have one guy do it all. And I think like we said, we knew that the Texans had a really strong front seven, and they proved it this weekend. And then of course the back end held up too. They had, four turnovers. So they definitely got their work cut out for them this week. But I think that might be one of the easiest games of the week to pick, but we'll definitely see for sure.
Yeah, and we'll talk more about our picks for this upcoming week a little bit later, but definitely Houston. You got to give them. You do have to give Houston a little bit of credit. They do make it to the playoffs most years, so they definitely look like the more experienced team. You are right about Disley. I remember us yelling about two of his drops. I think he might have even had a third one in there. And Quentin Johnston, I'm sorry, but I know he flashed a little bit earlier in the year, but he's not gonna. He shouldn't be an option for the Chargers. As not as a starting wide receiver moving forward. He's got stone hands. But I do think the Chargers will be back, and I'm sure you agree with me on that. But moving along, because the Chargers at this point, Houston doesn't know theoretically they don't know who they're playing yet, right? So we're gonna keep moving forward. Next game was on Saturday night. It was the Pittsburgh Steelers at 10-7, the six-seeded Steelers, traveling to Baltimore to take on the three-seeded Ravens. The Ravens 12-5 in the regular season. This is another one I don't think we really expected it to be that close, but I did take Pittsburgh plus 10. They could not even hold up that end of the bargain. 28-14 Baltimore. The story of this one, very simple, Josh. The Steelers could not stop the run in this game.
And I told you, I said if Baltimore sticks to the run game, I think they're going to be very hard to beat. And they made a concerted effort to make sure King Henry got his touches, and he was not going to be denied at all.
Was not denied in the slightest by the Steelers. So I think as the season came to a close, the Steelers really wore down in all phases. But to your point, Baltimore ran the ball 50 times in this game. Derrick Henry had 26 of those carries for 186 yards and two touchdowns. Baltimore ran for 299. They had the ball for 39 minutes and 33 seconds. Only three penalties and 10 of 15 on third downs. That is a dominant performance by the Baltimore Ravens. Lamar Jackson really wasn't asked to do much, but a nice game for him. 16 out of 21 for 175. Two touchdowns through the air. 15 carries for 81 yards on the ground, was only sacked one time by the Pittsburgh defense. Pittsburgh on the other hand only ran the ball 11 times because they were trailing 21-0 before they scored in this game. They punted on all of their first half drives and they only mustered 49 yards in the first half. Pittsburgh dominated here. Russell Wilson, the line looks good, but they didn't win the game. 20 out of 29, 270, two touchdowns for Wilson. And maybe the biggest diva receiver in the league, George Pickens, maybe. I think it's a tie. It might be a tie between him and a certain Philadelphia receiver. But five catches
Don't
for
leave out
87.
Diggs. Don't leave out Diggs.
Well, yeah, Diggs might be, yeah, Diggs might be worse than both of them, actually.
We've forgotten about him because he's been injured.
Yeah, I think he only played like 7 or 8 games this year, so I just casually overlooked that. Pickens had a nice line, 5 for 87, a touchdown. People, including me, like to dump on Mike McCarthy for being mediocre and only winning in the regular season. Maybe we should start having the conversation about Pittsburgh head coach Mike Tomlin. Just completed his 18th season as the Pittsburgh Steelers head coach. He's now lost 5 straight playoff games. You have to go back to 2016 from the last time that he won a playoff game, and the Steelers plan to retain him again. They're in a bad spot. The Steelers are in one of the worst spots I think that you could be in as a franchise in the league. because they're not bad enough to rebuild through the draft or anything like that. They're not good enough to win playoff games, and they don't have a franchise quarterback. So you got a three-pronged problem with Pittsburgh. And if you want to count Tomlin, he wins. He's never been under 500 in the regular season. That's cute. That's adorable. But he's not getting it done in the playoffs, guys. He's been one and done 5 times in a row. So how much better than Mike McCarthy is he really? 2025 next season will mark their 4th season since Ben Roethlisberger retired. As a Patriots fan here, I can't really knock them too much because we didn't find our potential franchise quarterback until the 5th year after Brady left. But Pittsburgh's in a bad spot. Flip side, Baltimore looked really poised here and very confident against their division rivals. That's kind of a statement dominant win for them. And their win in this game would mean that if Buffalo won on Sunday, the Baltimore Ravens would head to Orchard Park. If the Denver Broncos somehow pulled off the upset, they would host the Houston Texans. And we will get to that one in a second. Any other thoughts on, you want to comment on anything I said about the Steelers there?
Yeah, I would agree with you. And they're also coming up on a lame duck year for TJ Watt. So they're going to have to figure out what they're going to do with him. Are you going to extend him? Do you let him go into the year on a 1-year deal? That'll be an interesting way to see how that plays out. I know Colin Cowherd had just had the craziest take ever. He said, get rid of Pickens, get rid of Watt, and 2 first-round picks for the first overall pick. I'm like, I don't know if Tennessee would take that, but that would be an interesting move. But I like you said, it's really hard to see where they go from here. Supposedly, I've heard that they're not going to re-sign Russ, and they're thinking that Fields is going to be their starter next year. Now, I don't know what that'll look like because I don't know how much we believe in Justin Fields as an NFL quarterback. The guy's an athlete, but I don't know how we believe in him as a quarterback.
Well, considering that the Bears gave up on him after 3 years, and also the fact that he started the season 6-2 with the Pittsburgh Steelers, and they said, we're going to go to Russell Wilson. Or 5-2. It was 5-2 because Russ ended up going 5-5. So, I'm with you. Great athlete. Is he? Can he throw the ball consistently enough? I lean no on that at this point. But maybe you give them an offense with a bunch of they've got to retool offensively if they're going to do something like that. You can't just have Pickens. And yeah, Pickens is kind of a nightmare. I think the Coward scenario is crazy. Tennessee that's an interesting one for sure, but I'm not sure how realistic it is. And to your point about TJ Watt, I don't see how they could possibly move on from him. What a bad look that would be. That is their franchise. That's the cornerstone of their franchise, and he's still in his prime. So,
yeah, I agree.
Yeah, so
it's weird. Like JJ Watt was on the Pat McAfee show, and he was like, "You don't really hear of guys like this going into a 1-year deal left. Like it never gets to that point. You're always signing an extension before that."
Yeah, and I want to say Pittsburgh should have the cap space for it. I mean, they're not paying a quarterback. There's not a ton of star power on that team. Otherwise, they should be able to pay him. So it's a matter of if they want to or not. So that's definitely one to watch in the offseason. So as we said, Baltimore 28-14, a nice dominant win for them, really. And the winner of the Buffalo-Denver game would determine where they would be headed this weekend. So let's go to the first game on Sunday. The Denver Broncos, the 7th seed in the AFC, 10-7 on the year at the 2 seed Buffalo Bills. Nobody circles the wagon quite like the Buffalo Bills. I always like to take that one for Chris Berman. It's someone you look up to if you ever want to get into this sort of thing, you know. And in this game, for about 5 minutes, we thought the Denver came to play. We thought that the Broncos were going to take it to Buffalo, and this was going to be a highly competitive game. They got the ball first. They stormed out of the gate. Took them only 5 plays and 2 minutes and 24 seconds to go 70 yards for the opening touchdown. That touchdown was a beautifully thrown ball by Bo Nix to his former Oregon teammate, Troy Franklin, a 43-yard strike, beating Bills defenders into the end zone. And very early on, Denver, I thought they came to play. And then after that, their drives went like this. Punt, punt, missed field goal, punt, punt, turnover on downs, turnover on downs. After their first drive on offense, Denver only manages 154 total yards for the rest of the game. Bills win this one 31-7. 31-7. The ball washing of Josh Allen between Jim Nantz and Tony Romo. That is something that I can't wait to listen to again this week. We all love that so much. But Allen was pretty good in this one, 20-26 for 272 and two scores, only sacked twice, ran for 46 yards on the ground. James Cook looked great in this one. I don't know how much of this game you caught, Josh, but James Cook really stood out to me in this
Mm.
game. The vision and just the quickness that he had to make cuts, were in the hole. Like just I didn't
Against a
realize.
very good defense.
Oh yeah, no, Denver's no slouch. I mean, Denver's a top 10 defense, if not better. That was their calling card for much of this season. And he really just tore him up in the backfield. 23 carries for 120 yards and a score for him. The touchdown recipients were Ty Johnson and Curtis Samuel from Josh Allen. Denver's defense only
The
managed
Ty
to
Johnson catch was pretty insane.
yeah,
On a fourth and one.
yes, and you don't really talk about Buffalo's skill guys that much, right?
No.
Other than Cook. And, Amari Cooper's there. Dalton Kincaid is supposed to be better than what he's been. But you don't talk about the Ty Johnsons, the Curtis Samuels, the Khalil Shakirs, and Keon Coleman's that much. All those guys, I think maybe with the exception of Shakir, played a pretty important role in this game. Denver's defense only manages to hit Josh Allen 4 times in the whole game. They only had 3 tackles for loss in the whole game. And Buffalo had the ball for 41 minutes and 43 seconds. Denver just 18 minutes and 17 seconds of time of possession. Are we starting to? So we're 3 games in now, and we basically had 3 blowouts. Are we starting to notice a trend yet with Wildcard weekend?
Yeah, and I think I mentioned to you Saturday, like after the first game, I was like, oh, I have a feeling all these games are just gonna be out of hand.
And I don't know if I don't think that I would have agreed with you at the time. I would have said maybe I don't know what I said, but it would have been hard for me to imagine that would have been the case. But that's pretty much what ended up happening, with the exception of the one game on Sunday night. So with the win, Buffalo hosts Baltimore. Houston will travel to Kansas City for this weekend's divisional round. So the first 3 games of the playoffs were all AFC. The last 3 were all NFC. I found that pretty interesting. I think the NFL might be telling you something there, but that's just the way it worked out, I guess.
Sure.
Next game up was at 4:30 in the afternoon on Sunday, Josh. 2 teams that I'm sure you don't like very much. To be honest, I don't really like them too much either, especially the team that won. 7-seeded Green Bay, 11-6 on the season. The 7 seed, 11-6.
They looked like a 7 seed.
They looked like probably they didn't even belong in the playoffs in this game, to be completely honest. Philadelphia, the 2 seed, went 14-3. Philadelphia's defense absolutely dominant in this game. A 22-10 final. Philadelphia with the win. Packers offense really couldn't do a damn thing for 3/4 of this game. I watched it in disbelief and said they can't get open. They can't catch the ball. Love looks awful. They're containing Jacobs. They couldn't do anything. That offense could do nothing.
I felt bad for the Packers because it just felt like every other play, one of their receivers was going down, on top of the fact that they had already lost Christian Watson and they couldn't get open anyway. Jaden Reed went down. Dobbs went down.
The Dobbs one was scary. That was pretty scary. You could tell he smacked his head on the back of he smacked the back of it. And he had one of those Guardian caps
He had the
on,
Guardian
too.
cap on too.
Did nothing for him. Like, I don't know what the extent of the injury was, but he couldn't walk off under his own power. So I hope that it's nothing serious for Dobbs. But I know Reed went out. I think he came back after that. But yeah, at one point in the game, you did kind of start to feel like, wow, Green Bay is like out of their league here. Philadelphia, an impressive win. They didn't really have to do that much, but I think the play that encapsulated this game perfectly was the Dallas Goedert 24-yard touchdown, where he basically dragged a Packers defender down the sideline with him and just stiff-armed the crap out of him.
Like 3 times. Like, pretty much, no, you're not going to.
He kept coming back, and he's like, nope, get off. And he just kept him off, like, because Goddard probably had 30 pounds on the kid. And it was just like that play alone kind of just, that was the whole game, really, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
That's just how it felt. So,
Green Bay couldn't do anything to stop Saquon. I mean, he just pretty much did whatever he wanted.
No, he had his way. I mean,
Did Jalen throw over 200 yards?
Hurts only threw for 131.
Yeah, like he had to do nothing. And if you're the Packers, and I think we talked about it, like you need to make Jalen Hurts beat you. Do everything, like 9 in the box. Like
It's any team. It's any team. Any team. You should be do everything you can to stop Barkley, the guy who ran for 2,000 freaking yards.
Yeah.
And maybe the guy who at times does not look like a good quarterback at all as a passer. Try to make him beat. That should be the blueprint for any team facing this Eagles team. Um, so to your point, Barkley 25 carries for 119 yards. He and James Cook look exactly the same to me. Like you can tell an elite running back from a guy like a Ramondre Stevenson, right? Because Barkley just does things that other guys don't do.
Yeah,
He's so fast and he's physical. You know what I mean? He's not a scat back. He's not a pure power back. He's the perfect combination of both. The Giants have to feel like such idiots letting that guy go to Philadelphia. How stupid can you be?
Yeah, what was the quote? We're not going to pay a guy $12 million to hand him off the ball. Or no, we're not going to pay a guy $40 million to hand off the ball, right? Was that the quote?
We're not. Yeah, they should have fired that general manager. Should have fired him. Don't know how he kept his job. On the Packers side of things, Jordan Love turned back into the pumpkin that he was. All right, well, let me go back.
We were waiting for that shoe to fall.
Yeah,
like the last couple weeks of the season, he wasn't turning the ball. We were waiting for it.
Well, it's because Toyotathon ended. There's a stat out there. Like during Toyotathon in his career, he only has like 3 interceptions. But other than that, he has like 28 career interceptions and like 29 touchdowns.
There you go.
I don't know. I guess he's a Toyota guy. I don't know. I'm a Toyota guy.
For everything.
I have only driven Toyotas my entire life, so I get it. But Philly went out to a 10-0 lead in the first. They held that thing through halftime thanks to a fumbled opening kickoff by the Packers. So covered by Philly at the Green Bay 28. 3 plays later, it's Jalen Hurts to Jahan Dotson for an 11-yard score. They would exchange punts on the next 3 possessions. Eagles run down the last 5 minutes of the first quarter and kick a field goal after a 57-yard drive. 10-0 after 1. Nothing in the second for either side. At this point, it's sinking in that these games on Wildcard weekend kind of sucks. This is the point where it really sunk in. Packers did all their scoring on back-to-back drives in the third and fourth quarter. Jordan Love turned back in early season. Jordan Love, 3 interceptions for Jordan Love. No chance to beat Philly on this particular day with 3 turnovers from your quarterback. He went 20 out of 33 for 212 and 3 picks. Josh Jacobs, 18 carries for 81 yards and a score. On the other side, Jalen Hurts, just 13 of 21 for 131. He did throw 2 touchdown passes, and he did add 36 yards rushing on the ground. But if they're going to advance to the Super Bowl, you're going to need more than that out of him. And A.J. Brown, hilariously, just 1 catch on 1 target. He had 1 ball thrown to him all day, and he's reading self-help books on the bench while his team is winning. Absolutely incredible. Only Philadelphia, right? That win for Philly, and again, 22-10 the final, Philly over Green Bay. That means that they will host the highest remaining seed in the NFC. More on that to come. So, any more thoughts on this, or do you want to get to the only game that was actually any good?
I was going to say, let's get to the game that was actually entertaining.
All right, so I didn't catch a ton of this game myself, but I'm sure you will help me, but I've got plenty of notes on it anyway. One thing I can say for sure is this, and this is what I have. Just want to get this off the start. By the way, it's the 6th seed. The 6th seed, Washington Commanders. 12-5 at the 3 seed Tampa Bay Buccaneers. 10-7, the NFC South champions. Washington was 3-point underdogs in this game, and the over-under was 50.5. Neither of those things came to fruition. But I've been saying this at least most of the year, but this was the night where Jaden Daniels officially arrived, I think. He's better than advertised. He's going to be a nightmare for opposing coaches and defenses for a long time. At least I hope, and I'll tell you why. I'm not a Washington fan, as you know, but the league desperately needs an influx of good, young upper echelon talent at that quarterback position. This kid represents that. Washington never punted in this game. They did go for it and failed twice on 4th down. Both times were in easy field goal range. Dan Quinn, looking at you, bud, 28-3. And one of them was in the 4th quarter when they were trailing 17-13 with 14:05 to go. But Daniels bails out Dan Quinn late as they go for it again, still down by the same score 4 minutes later. This time it's Jane Daniels hitting Terry McLaurin, who ran a perfect route to the left goal post in the end zone, a 5-yard touchdown strike on fourth down. Washington took a 20-17 lead at that point. Josh, Washington wins this game 23-20. Commanders, what do you want? I don't know. I'm kind of leaving you in a weird spot here, but what do you want to say?
Yeah, I watched the entire game, and like you mentioned Dan Quinn going for it on 2 4th downs.
Three, but two of them failed.
Well, yeah, the last one that he went for, the one he scored the touchdown on, it's interesting because they had the ball in almost the same exact spot. They go for it on 4th down, they don't get it. Tampa Bay gets the ball back, and then they immediately fumble it back to Washington, and then they go for it again on 4th down. I'm like, so you learned nothing from the last 4th down you went. It's like these coaches, like, just take the points, especially because it's not like it was like, I think the second time he went for it, he might have been a little more pressed, but it's like they're going for it early in the third or late in the third quarter. It's like you're gonna get more possessions. Like, take your 3 points at 17-16 now instead of 17-13, and then you might only need a field goal to win the game. And then if Tampa Bay does get a field goal, then you're in the same spot. Like, you need a touchdown again. I don't understand why these coaches just refuse to take points.
Yeah, it's the stupid analytics and all that stupid crap discussion, right? One of those 4th downs was in the first quarter, by the way.
Yeah.
Just stupid. But anyway, they kind of get bailed out here, right? So after they take the 20-17 lead, Tampa gets it back with 9:40 to go, and Baker Mayfield kind of goes off a little bit, hits Jalen McMillan immediately for a 26-yard gain. 2 plays later, he hits Cade Otton for 20 more. Tampa runs it down to 4:45 to go, 32-yard field goal, bam, tie game 2020. Commanders, next drive, Daniels goes 3 for 3 for 44 yards. They're able to run it in between pass plays. Both teams have to burn their timeouts. They do a good job running the clock down. Daniels takes a knee, places the ball for his kicker, and Washington takes its final timeout. Now, I'm sure that you've seen this. I'm sure most people have seen this at this point. But their kicker, Zane Gonzalez, looks like he had a full-blown panic attack or like did some snooters or something as they're lining up, he's getting ready to go on the field. He's like tweaking out. I guess he said it was ADHD or something like that. He's scratching the crap out of his head. He's like twitching. That was one of the most nervous looking kicker moments I've ever seen. And then a 37-yard attempt to win the game as time is expiring, right? It's up and it hits the right goalpost. Oh no. But it doinks in. We got a doink. We got a doink. And Washington wins their first playoff game since 2005. Josh, 2005. 23-20 final score. What did you think? What did you think watching Zane Gonzalez there at the end? What did you think? What did you think about that?
When he kicked that ball, literally the first thing I was like, oh my God, he missed. Like, holy crap, he missed. And then it hit the upright, and then it somehow found it. I was like, wow. I was like, could you have imagined if he had missed that kick? Like, you played it perfectly. You made them use all their timeouts. You ran it down, and now you're going to overtime because your kicker lets you down for an extra point. It's essentially an extra point.
Yeah, it is. It's only 12 feet back from an extra point. So, yeah, I mean, it's either they win the game on that kick or he misses it. The whole team's probably deflated, right? And then they got to go to overtime on the road.
Lose it in OT because you just feel like, you know what I mean?
The wind just get, they just slash your tires with that missed kick or something.
Yeah.
On this day, Jaden Daniels 24-35, 268 and 2 touchdowns for him. He added 13 carries for 36 rushing yards. That was one of the only bets I hit on the weekend was his over rushing attempts. Terry McLaurin, 7 catches for 89 yards. He continues to finally blossom into that elite receiver that we all kind of thought that he could be with Jaden Daniels as his quarterback. And De'Ami Brown.
He had a game.
Yes, 5 for 89 and a score.
And some huge catches, like big 3rd downs.
That's money, man. I mean, listen, they when you get a quarterback like that, it's guys like De'Ami Brown, Noah Brown, Zacchaeus. Am I saying that name right?
The guy they got from oh my God, Philadelphia.
Yes. And the courts of Jamison Crowder had a couple touchdowns this year. This is what happens when you get that level of quarterback play. Used to happen with Tom Brady all the time. These guys that nobody really thinks about all of a sudden start to contribute because you've got a quarterback that can make all the plays, can make all the reads. And I think they asked Jaden Daniels after this game. They asked him, like what's your mindset or whatever, like how do you stay so poised? And he said something to the effect, well, God will take care of it, so I don't worry about any of that stuff. And it's like, dude, if you can have that kind of peace of mind as like a 24, 25-year-old kid, you're gonna succeed. So
Mm.
I'm excited to see what he can do moving forward. That game, we're gonna talk about it in just a second, but their game coming up this week is it's got all the juice you want for a divisional round game. So we'll get into that we'll get into that very shortly, as we only have one other game to recap here. But on the flip side, just for Tampa, just a couple things to note. Baker Mayfield's first career loss in the opening round of the playoffs. He was 2-0 on Wildcard weekend, 15 out of 18 for 185 and 2 scores for him. Bucky Irving, running back of the future for the Bucks. He's a pretty good one. 17 carries for 77, 2 catches for 6 yards, and a receiving touchdown. And Mike Evans, timeless wonder Mike Evans, 7 catches for 92 yards and a touchdown for him in the loss for Tampa Bay.
Yeah, he killed Lattimore in that game.
Well, we all know that's his goal, right? That's those two guys. Like they're still in the NFC, right? And they met up twice a year, every year, and they used to just beat the crap out of each other, literally fighting each other.
Yeah,
Like
they do not like each other.
they really don't like each other at all. And Marshawn Lattimore, I think is in the back half of his career as well, but still has been a great corner for a long time. These guys have probably played 15 plus games against each other. And yeah, Evans 7 for 92 and a touchdown, and you know that Lattimore was on him the whole game.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. So that's Mike Evans can be like, at least I got his ass, So plus he got his $3 million. So yeah, I guess whatever. So this win for Washington means that they will travel to Detroit in the divisional round, while the winner of the Monday night game between Minnesota and the Rams will head to Philadelphia. So we are going to get into our thoughts and our picks and everything for that Washington and Detroit game coming up here very shortly. But that's probably the one. There's two that I'm really looking forward to this weekend, Josh. I think you'll agree with me. It's that one, and it's Baltimore against Buffalo.
Those are both on Sunday, right?
Actually, no. The Detroit-Washington game is on Saturday night at 8:00.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so they put one great game on one day, one great game on the other day. So I'm looking forward to that for sure. But we will get to that in a moment. We have got to go over just a couple more things from Wild Card Weekend. Mainly this last game here. They waited till Monday night. It was Minnesota, the 5 seed Minnesota Vikings, 14-3. They traveled. They're technically on the road to the LA Rams, but of course, due to the unfortunate situation in Southern California, they played this game in Arizona. The Rams looked like they were right at home anyway, to be honest with you. The 4-seeded Rams, the winners of the NFC West at 10-7. Minnesota was doomed from the start in this one, my friend. They were doomed from the start. Rams. I mean, this was a ass whooping. There's nothing short of that. It was a complete ass whooping.
And I texted my buddies. I was like, not to insult you, but big D Sam Darnold officially shriveled up. And
he peed down his leg. He had the shrinkage. He pooped his pants. All of it. I will say this much though, in his defense, the line couldn't block you or me if we went out there that night. They couldn't block. They couldn't do any. That offensive line did nothing for him in that game. I will say that. But yeah, my boy, probably cost himself a ton of money just in the last 2 games. It's kind of sucks to see because he had such a great year. But yeah, just quickly, very quickly on this one, because it really was a dominant performance by the Rams here. Rams opened the game with a 70-yard drive and a 5-yard touchdown pass from Matt Stafford to Kyron Williams. Vikings opening drive in the first quarter was for 3 plays, and they punted it after 0 yards. They would get a field goal out of their second drive to cut the lead to 10-3. Then their next drives went like this. Darnold INT. Darnold strip sack, lost fumble. Turnover on downs. End of half. Punt. Touchdown. Punt. Turnover on downs. Turnover on downs. So not much doing for them. Darnold put the ball up 40 times in this game, completed 25 passes, 245 yards, a touchdown, the interception, and the lost fumble that I mentioned. But this is the amount of pressure he was under. 9 times he was sacked. That's tied for the most among any quarterback in any game this year. And he was hit 12 times. So you can't quite put it all on him if the offensive line is playing like the Patriots' offensive line in the playoffs.
Well, I will say some of that is on him because
Sure it is. Sure.
They mentioned on the Manning cast, and I've heard it throughout the year that Sam Darnold doesn't anticipate. He has to wait for it to be there. So he'll hold on to the ball an extra, step, an extra hitch. And that if it's not out on right timing, well, sometimes that line isn't going to hold up. And now some of it was just the Rams were getting after it, right? They were like, I think at one point he got sacked on a 3-man rush. Like that's unacceptable. Like you can't 3 guys to 5. That should never break down.
It never happened.
Right. So it's like some of it is definitely on the line and some of it is on, and I'm sure this is what coaches and staffs are going to say to him. Like, well, you hold on to the ball too long. You're not reading the defense beforehand and anticipating your throws. You're waiting for it to become open. Well, the NFL doesn't work like that. Sometimes you have to throw guys open. You have to throw with anticipation or you're not going to be an elite quarterback.
We watched it forever. I mean, you can go back to you can go back to Steve Young that used to be great at stuff like that. We watched a whole generation of quarterbacks be great at that. Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, Aaron Rodgers, Drew Brees. What do they all have in common? You could throw guys open. You know what I mean? And Brady did it better than I think anybody I've ever seen. It's just the ball's gone and the guy hasn't even come out of his break yet. I mean, that's part of it. I mean, when you bring that up, that reminds me of something that they said about Daniel Jones early in this season, a guy that cannot make reads and cannot anticipate. And that's not good for Darnold. And he got exposed. He was seeing ghosts out there. It's a shame. But to your point, first of all, coaching-wise, the Rams had the edge in this game. I'm sorry, but Sean McVay's a great coach. One of the best 3 or 4 in the whole entire league. Maybe top 2. I don't know. And then also the Rams wanted it more. Like sometimes you just see it, right? It just jumps off the screen. They were a step ahead. You see it in football a lot. You see it in basketball. You see it in hockey a lot too. Sometimes you just see team just wants it more. But just to highlight the dominance for the Rams, in addition to the 9 sacks, they had 9 more tackles for loss in this game. They were just faster. They were better. They didn't really have to do much offensively. Stafford threw for 209 and 2 touchdowns. Kyron Williams had 76 on the ground in a receiving score, as I mentioned. Puka Nacua 5 for 44. Tyler Higbee 5 catches for 58, the tight end. And Cooper Kupp just 1 catch for 29 yards, but he won't be bitching like A.J. Brown was. So, with that win, the Rams earned themselves a trip to Philadelphia with a lot of cold and definitely some snow in the forecast. So that's going to be a hell of a challenge for that Dome team. So we shall see. So, my friend, we have made it through the recap rundown portion of Wildcard Weekend. Let's not spend too much time on our picks. All I'm going to say is that outright, we had all of the same winners picked last week, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you and I both went 4-2. We got everything right, except we both thought Minnesota would beat LA. Wasn't close. And we both thought that the Chargers would beat Houston, and that wasn't close. So 4-2 is not bad. My bets didn't go so well. I missed a bunch of I picked a bunch of overs and almost everything went under. But anyway, let's look forward to this weekend, sir. If you don't mind. I know I'm doing most of the talking here, but I'm trying to roll through.
I'm with it.
All right. I know you had a long day too, so I'm trying to get you. I don't want your wife to get mad at me. So I'm trying to get you through it here. So, divisional round weekend. Saturday at 4:30. It'll be the Houston. Oh, Houston's playing on Saturday at 4:30 again. Houston, now 11-7. The 4th seed are 9-point underdogs going to Arrowhead to play the 1-seeded Kansas City Chiefs. who are 15-2. In that game, the weather is about to be 25. It will be 25 degrees and falling after kickoff. No precipitation is in the forecast. Um, okay, I'm just gonna go. I'm just gonna go over what's happening, and then we'll go one by one. And then like we were talking about earlier, Washington, the sixth seed in the NFC, 13-5. They're 9.5 point dogs going to Detroit. That's a smashable line to me. The Lions were also 15-2 in the one seed in the regular season. Interesting that the two one seeds are both playing on Saturday, but it makes sense because they had the bye week. Um,
Mm.
and then Sunday, 3 o'clock, those Rams that we just talked about, 11-7, they are 6 point underdogs going to Philadelphia. Philly now 15-3. By the way, in that game, 65% chance of snow. The temp will be around 30 degrees and falling after kickoff. At least 4 inches of snow is expected in Philadelphia on Sunday. So that's one to keep in mind. And then finally, the final game of the weekend, 6:30 on Sunday. It'll be the 3 seed Baltimore Ravens, 13-5. They are 1 point favorites against the 2 seed Buffalo Bills on the road. Bills are
I think
14.
that I think that's the hardest game to pick this week.
Absolutely. That feels like a toss up. Same line as Minnesota and the Rams from last week, right? The road team being 1 point favorite. We'll get to it. We're going to get to it. In that one, the weather is going to be 15 degrees at kickoff. Not much wind and no snow forecasted in Buffalo on Sunday. And both of those teams are outdoor teams from basically the Northeast. So I don't think the weather will really affect Baltimore all that much. But when it gets down to 15, you're not throwing the ball nearly as much because you can't feel it. It's a lot harder to catch. It's slippery. Um, what do we make of this one? What do you make of this one, my friend? Let's start with Houston and Kansas City. What do you see happening here?
I'm not gonna get caught, so I'm going with Kansas City.
Okay, are you gonna? Okay, wait, hold. I should be writing stuff down too.
I'm not gonna get caught because every week you're like, this thing could look no, and then they win. So you know what? I'm gonna ride it until the wheels fall off. We're going with Kansas City.
Well, we're going with Kansas City, but all right. So outright, we both all right. Let me just jot this down. Outright, we're both going KC. KC. But what do you think of that 9 point spread? You want to touch that or no?
See, that's a toughie because I don't think anyone has that much faith that Kansas City wins by 10 points. You know what I mean? Like they haven't been blowing teams out. But dome team in Houston and 25 degrees weather, I don't know how many games CJ Stroud has played below freezing. So I'd like to see a stat there because I don't know how he's going to perform, but I'd probably say I would take KC with the 9.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Both of us -9. I think it actually dropped to 8.5 too. Um, but yeah, no, I actually do. And another thing too, there's a little bit of familiarity there because Houston was there not too long ago. And that game wasn't even particularly close, and that was when they had Tank Dell for half the game.
Mm.
Um, Houston riding momentum. A lot of times the team has a bye week. Really, Kansas City's really hasn't played competitively in 3 weeks because they didn't start any of their starters in their final regular season game either. So Houston might be able to jump on them early, but yeah,
And
nine.
I don't even think KC they have that championship medal, so it's like I don't think that's going to affect them. I really don't. They've had so many years where they had that bye that they're like, okay, yeah, we know, okay, it's time to turn it on. You know what I mean? Like, so I'm not. I just I don't think you can bet against them.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I don't see how you could either.
And
Um,
if I did lose that bet, I'd be happy.
oh sure, yeah, no, sure, I would, yeah, no, I would be too because enough of this crap with the Chiefs.
Mm,
But yeah, we both kind of expecting, so it's kind of like a mini preview here. But this is certainly a battle tested team that's been winning ugly all year. Uh,
yeah.
and you just expect them to pull a game. You don't expect them to go one and done in the playoffs. Mahomes is 15-3 in the playoffs. You don't. Kansas City should win this game. That would be, I think that's both of our takes. At least we kind of agree on that. So the other Saturday game then is like I said, Washington, call them a 6 seed all you want, but they've won 13 games. They're 9.5 point underdogs. Oh yeah, over unders too. I don't know if you want to bring any of that up either. The over under for the KC game is 41.5. And again, they're 25-degree weather, 41.5 over under. So I don't know if you want to comment on that stuff or not, or you want to just stick to the line.
It's tough because like after this week, everything in you would be like, oh, you got to take the unders. But oh man,
That's what I did for the most part.
yeah. I mean, I would still say, I mean, Kansas City hasn't even scored over 30 points, so I think you'd have to slam the under.
Yeah, so we're in agreement on all that. So yeah, let's move to the one that I think really, like I said, two out of the four, but the late games on both days are the ones that we're really looking out for. So Washington, call them a 6 seed all you want, but 13 wins in 18 games this season. 9.5 point dogs at Detroit. And the over under in this one is a pretty absurd 55.5.
I was gonna say it's got to be around 55.
Yeah, it's pretty high. Um, I got to be honest with you. After what I saw from Washington last weekend, I don't. It's. I don't know. I don't know. Is Detroit 2 touchdowns better? I don't know. Because neither team has a great defense. And Detroit's defense is banged up. They're going to be able. Both teams are going to be able to throw it at will. I feel like, and the Lions should be able to run it at will as well. Do you think the Washington can cover that 9.5 or no?
Do I think they can? Yes. Do I think they will? No. I think the Lions are a team possessed right now, and I think especially coming off that win against Minnesota, I think their defense must be feeling pretty good, right? They held that Minnesota team to nothing, and I think Minnesota's a better team than Washington. So I think they're gonna cover. I don't know if we'll hit the over. 56 points is a lot.
It
But
is.
I could also see like a backdoor cover, like a garbage time touchdown for Washington, like getting them to the over. Because I see Detroit putting up at least 30 points.
Right. Yeah, I think so too. Even like a 31-24 like wouldn't do it.
Mm.
So it's a lot of points. I get the feeling this one's a track meet. I hear you on what you're saying about Washington, but I think they're going to cover plus 9.5. I could see it being a 4, 7, 8 point game, something like that. That's just how I see it, and I think I'm going to bet the offense on this one as well. I think I'll take the over 55.5. I know that's a lot of points, but this game's going to have to make up for what's going to be a lot of low scoring stuff otherwise this weekend. Um, this one's definitely the one I'm looking forward to the most, I would say. Um, Only because I've seen Baltimore and Buffalo how many times now. So,
Mm.
yeah, give me Washington in the cover, but we both like Detroit to win outright in this game. So, with that being said, um, let's move to Sunday 3 o'clock. You got the Rams going outdoors in the snow, 6 point dogs at Philadelphia. Do they have any shot at covering that?
If they stop Saquon, if they stop Saquon. Other than that, I mean, especially figuring that neither team's going to be able to throw. If there's a bunch of snow on the ground and it's freezing out, I don't see Matt Stafford. Both teams he's ever played for, dome teams. I don't see him being super effective. But Saquon, again, when you have a great defense and you have a great run game, your game travels. You know what I mean? So I think doesn't matter where Philadelphia plays. If they have Saquon Barkley and he can't be stopped, I don't think anyone can beat him.
Anyone in the league?
I if Detroit wins and Philadelphia wins and they have to go to Detroit and they can't stop Saquon, I don't think Detroit can win.
Very interesting. Then that's a very plausible scenario that we might be talking about next week. So, I am with you on both. I don't see how the Rams can. This just doesn't. It just doesn't feel like a good spot for them, right? Dome team, snow, 30 degrees, and yeah, they're gonna be pounding it with Barkley, and they may have the best offensive line in all of football. So
Mm.
it's between them and I think Detroit. So I don't see this being the game that Barkley gets stopped. Let's just put it that way. So we're both in agreement. Philadelphia -6. The over-under on that game is 43 and a half, and I think that's an easy under considering. So
Yeah, I
I
can
think
easily
that
see
line,
20 to 10,
yeah.
or something like that, where it's not even going to be close.
Yeah, I think that 43 and a half is going to come down by Sunday when they realize what's going on with this storm. I'm surprised it was still that high when I was able to bet it. Last one, Sunday at 6:30 p.m. Could be the best game of the weekend. Baltimore at Buffalo, the 3 seed at the 2 seed. And again, Baltimore 1 point favorites at this juncture. And that over under, and that this one is a high number too. It's 51 and a half. So what do you make of this one? This is a tough game to pick, admittedly.
Yeah, it is. And like my heart is rooting for Buffalo. I'd love to see Buffalo get back to another Super Bowl. I think I know. You're a Pat
I
fan.
hate both. I'm sorry, I hate both of them, but I get it. Buffalo, if we could get Buffalo versus Detroit, like
Right. Lovable losers. Someone's got to win.
someone's
Right.
gonna finally get a championship on it,
Right.
you
So,
know. Um,
that's where my brain is saying if they stick to the run, I don't think Derrick Henry can be stopped. Like, you know what I mean?
doesn't seem like it.
And again, make Lamar beat you. That's what I would say to Buffalo. Like, if I'm Sean McDermott, I'm like, he's got to beat us. And I saw something earlier this week. I don't know if it was on Instagram or ESPN. The lowest temperature that Lamar Jackson has ever played in is 25 degrees. And the lowest temperature Derrick Henry has ever played in is like 28 or maybe 22. So none of them have played in single digit temperatures. And supposedly, I think it's supposed to be like 8 degrees Sunday in Buffalo.
It's gonna be 15 at kickoff.
Yeah.
But that'll fall a little bit, and then when you add in, even if it's like 7, 8 mile an hour winds, you're gonna be feel like you're gonna be in the single digits. So that's a good point. That's a nice stat by you on that one, stat boy. Very good. We all know that Josh Allen and the Bills are used to playing. Oh,
Yeah.
so but you still think Baltimore will win?
Again, my heart says I want to go, but my brain says you got to go with Baltimore. You gotta.
He's going Baltimore. All right. Um, and the over under of 51.
There's no way that hits. There's
All
no
right.
way.
Yeah, I'm with you. Under 51 and a half, but I will tell you what, my friend, nobody circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills. And it is time to get them back in the AFC Championship game. I believe that, listen, you're right about Derrick Henry, especially in cold weather. No one's going to want to tackle that guy. So it's going to be imperative for the Buffalo Bills to jump out early in this game and get a lead and force Lamar Jackson to have to play from behind. If they can
Absolutely.
do that, they're going to win this game. I just think, I really think that I know that there's that discussion about the two of them being MVP. It's between one of them for MVP, right?
Should be Joe
But
Burrow, but I get it.
I'm with you. I like traditional quarterback play myself. I think it should be Burrow, even though they're not they're a 4-win team without Joe Burrow. Maybe.
That might be generous.
Yeah, I know. So I'm just saying. But this is kind of past narrative a little bit. I don't want to upset anybody when I say this, but when it gets to when it gets past wild card weekend, when it gets into the second round of the playoffs, Lamar Jackson is not good in these situations. He has shown it 4 or 5 times now. I really should have had this pulled up. It's going to take me too long to get it, but but playoff Lamar is not the same as regular season Lamar.
No.
And
And he proved that last year in the AFC Championship game.
yeah, exactly. It just seemed like the moment got too big for him. It honestly did. He's 70-24 in his career as a starting quarterback, right? Uh, but in the playoffs, just 3-4. That's it. 3-4. That he has never won back-to-back playoff games in a postseason. It hasn't been done. In fact, he started his playoff career 0-2.
Yep.
And then in 2020, they beat the Titans and Derrick Henry, then lost to Buffalo in Buffalo. So this has already happened before with these two. 17-3. He didn't, yeah. And then last year it was the same thing. They blew out Houston
Yep.
And then they went to Kansas City and they put up 10 points. So I understand, like, you can't really, eventually, the kid's still young. He's 28. He just turned 28 years old like 10 days ago. So there's that. There's obviously time. Peyton Manning didn't win his first Super Bowl for a very long time in his career. Certainly older than Lamar Jackson is now, but I'm going with Josh Allen. Josh Allen looks like a guy that knows how to win in the playoffs. He's kept his poise. And yeah, Allen's 6-5 in the playoffs in his career. I will say this much though. Allen only won 2 playoff games in a row one time in his career as well. So this should be interesting.
Yeah,
Uh,
I think like 2 or 3 of his losses are to Patrick Mahomes.
yeah, one, two, three.
Yeah,
Three of his 5 career playoff losses are
right.
to
I
Mahomes.
mean, that's he just keeps hitting a buzzsaw, unfortunately.
I think
And one of them was McDermott's fault because you shouldn't have never kicked that kickoff. Should have never squibbed it.
13 seconds left. That still blows my mind to this day how that happened. That it
Take the
blows
ball
my head.
to the end zone.
Seriously, what are you doing? So a lot of ifs have to happen here, but you're going with Baltimore. My heart is doing this for both of these teams, but give me in my head, I think that this is Buffalo's game. I really do.
I hope you're right. I really do. I'd really like to see Buffalo win because I think Buffalo has the best chance of beating Kansas City, not Baltimore.
Yeah, I agree with you. Like I think that's kind of what I was going to get to. He's 0-3.
That's why I think Baltimore wins.
That's a good point. Allen's 0-3 in his playoff career against Mahomes. I truly believe if both of those teams win this weekend, this is going to be the year that the Bills will break through and beat Kansas City. So
I think so.
bookmark that.
They already beat him this year, so I could see him doing it.
Yeah, bookmark that. I think this is the year for Allen. But they got to get through. Listen, Baltimore's a great team. They only got better as the season went along. Derrick Henry,
especially defensively.
yes, absolutely. They made a bunch of key personnel changes, moving guys around in the secondary, and they made a trade for a guy too, if I'm not mistaken. And I forget who, I should really know who that is, but he's helped them as well. They're playing their best football at the right time. So that's gonna be a doozy, I think, on Sunday night. But we're in difference on the team. So obviously you would take Baltimore -1. I've got Buffalo +1. And we both agree on the under, which is 51.5 points. So folks, so we finally have a differing opinion on an outright game.
It happened.
It did happen. It had to eventually. So we shall see on that one, folks. This is the Terranadome. My name is Scott. He's Josh Morris. He's in again. I owe this man a hefty dinner or something for helping out with the show so much this year. It's been a blast for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, man. So just a couple quick things here that I want to mention. I think we're gonna table. I really want to mention that the Celtics for a minute here, but the Red Sox, they're still cheap, whatever. I can talk about that next month. Bruins are on the verge of a shakeup. Let's see if they actually shake it up. Do want to hit on Mike Vrabel. Mike Vrabel is I said it in the open to the show that Josh hasn't heard yet, but 3-time Super Bowl champion, former All-Pro with New England, and a member of the Patriots Hall of Fame. He is the guy that the Crafts wanted all along. He's the guy. He gets the job. He is the next head coach of the New England Patriots. At least we can have some confidence in this. His opening press conference, he talked for almost an hour. He was great. Mentioned things that we love to hear, like we're getting the entitlement out of our team, and we're going to earn the opportunity to come into this building every day. I absolutely love that. This guy is tough as nails. He's going to be tough on his players. He's going to hold them accountable, and he's going to get the most out of them. This is a great hire as far as I'm concerned. I was a little wishy-washy at first, but it makes it's the only one that really made sense for this team. You want to snap it out of that horrible crap culture that they just went through last year. And if you want to be completely honest, really the last couple years before that too, not great. Bill closing everything off at the end, right? Vrabel's the guy. It was the right call, and you knew that's who they wanted all along. They made a mockery out of the process. Again, they look like a-holes for that. But I think that's more of an NFL issue than it is a Patriots issue, if you will. I don't know what you think of Vrabel, Josh. I got to watch him play the best years of his career here, so I might be a little bit biased. He was an absolutely outstanding player and one of the absolute smartest players that ever came through New England during all those years. Um, and then also the rest of the league. We still don't have anybody else that's been hired. There are still 6 job openings because since we spoke last week, Jerry Jones decided he's not going to bring back Mike McCarthy after all. So I was wrong about that too. So you still have 6 openings, right? You have Dallas, you have Jacksonville, New Orleans, the Vegas Raiders, the Jets. Help me with the last one.
Did you say the Saints?
I did say the Saints.
So Saint. Did you said the Bears?
I
Did you
did.
say
I
the
don't think I
Cowboys?
did say that. I don't think I did say the Bears. Actually, the Bears would be the last one. So, um, but interestingly enough, like, what do you make of the fact that no one else has been hired except Vrabel yet? And then I know you don't care for the Pats, but what do you think of what I said about the Vrabel hire?
I mean, I didn't watch the press conference, so I know we had spoken and said that I don't know, as a Pats fan, I felt like more people would want Ben Johnson in there. Now, I know he's a first time head coach, so that might scare some people off. Vrabel definitely a competent coach, right? Like he's done it before. He won with Tennessee, with Ryan Tannehill at quarterback. So I think if you're a Patriots fan, you're like, all right, now we actually have a franchise quarterback. This guy should be able to, but I think it comes down to, are you going to spend, right? Like you still have holes in that roster. Tennessee was a good team. They just didn't have a great quarterback. I think that's all they were really missing. They probably could have that year
And
they
another,
lost.
and they traded away AJ Brown, which is what eventually got Vrabel out the door there because he was pissed after that.
Yeah. But I mean that year they lost to Baltimore. Were they not the 1 seed?
They
Or was
were.
that the year they lost to Cincinnati? They were the 1 seed one of those years.
Yeah, they were. He went so yeah, so his first 4 years he had a winning record. The third year they had 11 wins and they were 12-4. Um or 12-5, whatever it was. But they were the 1 seed one year. That's right.
Yeah. And then Tannehill like puked on himself. He threw like a bubble screen interception or whatever. I think that was the Bengals game. But I mean they were so close. They were on the cusp.
That the year that they've knocked out New England.
The year Brady retired. Not retired, left.
Yeah, so they knocked out they beat Brady in his last game as a Patriot at
That
home.
was 2019, right?
Yeah, that was 2019. Yeah. So that was Cincinnati, I believe.
Yeah, right. So that was the year Cincinnati. Was that I don't know. It's so long ago now, but
No, it wasn't the year they went to the Super Bowl.
no, it wasn't
No.
because that was the year KC went, right? 2019. That was the year the Niners lost. So
Yeah.
maybe
Yeah.
that wasn't the year then.
No, because well, I don't Houston. I don't know. We're getting probably a little bogged down in the details now, but
Yeah,
Cincinnati,
but
Cincinnati
I
went.
would have thought that more Patriots fans would have wanted. I mean, I think if you were a Patriots fan, you knew they wanted Vrabel. Everyone knew that. It wasn't a secret.
No,
But I would have thought there would have been more pushback for guys like Bobby Slowick and Ben Johnson. But see, I think with Vrabel there now, you should be able to get a very competent offensive coordinator because that's really going to be the most important. The head coach, in my opinion, is not the most important thing for a quarterback. It's that offensive coordinator, right? Like they need to be on the same wavelength. They need to know what each other wants from each other. So let me ask you, as a Pats fan, like who do you want to see them go after?
that's a good question. The name they keep tossing around is bringing back Josh McDaniels here. Um, I'd feel, I guess, the same way I would have felt about Vrabel because, to your point about Ben Johnson, it was kind of exciting that he was actually, interviewing here.
Hmm.
That could have really changed things. That would have definitely changed things like offensively, but you don't know what you're going to get on the other side. Um, OCs, that's a tough call. I honestly wouldn't even hate it if they kept Van Pelt. Doesn't seem like that's going to happen. But worked with May, and honestly, the kind of helped develop the kid. Maybe McDaniels, I guess. I mean, McDaniels has no has no incentive to really work if he doesn't want to. Like people are like, "Oh, why isn't anybody else calling him for a job?" He's probably telling people he's not interested because the Raiders are still paying him for 3 more years. He's owed like another $40 million.
Mm.
So that's probably why.
From what I understand, if he does take a coordinator job, the Raiders don't have to pay him.
Oh, is that true?
Yeah. So as a head coach, you get bought out, but if you take a coordinator job, you don't have to get paid by them anymore because now you have a job. Same thing like when Belichick, like when they fired him, he didn't have to, like if he had taken a job, the Patriots wouldn't have had to pay him.
Oh no, he never got fired. He left. He just went
I
to
know,
the.
but I'm saying like it's the same idea. Like that's why a lot of these guys who get fired, they don't take a job.
Well, this is how Belichick used to get around stuff like this,
With
right?
Patricia, he didn't give him a name,
He never gave him the title. That's
so
what
he
it
still had
is.
to get paid by Detroit.
Right, exactly.
If he was labeled a coordinator, Detroit's off the hook.
Yeah, no, he was just like a consultant or something. They could do the same thing with McDaniels if they wanted to.
Yeah.
I'd like to see somebody fresh with like
Hmm.
fresh ideas. I would
Like
like that.
maybe an up and coming quarterback coach or passing game
I was gonna
coordinator.
say like Josh McCown would be nice. Quarterback coach for the Vikings, but
Vikings. Yep.
he's getting interviewed for head coaching jobs.
Yeah.
I just heard that one today. He's being interviewed for one of the head coaching jobs. Um, I don't know. Somebody up and coming would be great. It's
Yeah.
somebody, you know,
Well, it would be good too, because then that new guy, and May would get to blossom together. You know what I mean?
yeah, I agree. That's it's I don't know. I should have been more prepared for that answer, but I don't.
And to go back to the other five openings, I think it shows you how much the teams that are still in have coveted people, like Aaron Glenn for Detroit, Ben
True.
Johnson, Bobby Slowick. I think those guys, people are waiting to see, are you guys going to leave? Are you guys going to come? Because I think those are the guys that are most desirable right now.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. The only one that I've seen that's really gotten a bunch of interviews is Robert Saleh. And to be honest with you, I think he deserves another shot as a head coach because I think the only reason he got blown out of New York that fast is because of Aaron Rodgers.
Mm.
Never really got a chance to work with a real quarterback. So I hope Salah gets a job, but I think you're spot on with that assessment that they're waiting for these guys to become available. Like Todd Monken's another one, Joe Brady's another one.
Yep, of course.
Two offensive coordinators for the Rams and the Bills. So, and then I think for Pat's purposes, like a guy like Nick Caley would be,
Mm.
a guy that would make a lot of sense. He was here in the building before. Now he's with the Rams, and supposedly he might come here with one of Vrabel's right hand men from the Rams after their playoff run. But that's just a rumor. I don't know how true it is, but that's another one that would make sense. It's a younger guy, right?
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
yeah, so I'm very interested to see what happens. But I think they have two of the most, if not the most important pieces in place. They have the head coach and they have the quarterback. So if nothing else, it's something to look forward to. Maybe things will start to turn up a little bit. One thing I will say for sure, yes, they definitely need to go and spend some friggin' money. They're gonna have the most cap space in the league, and I'm gonna kill them every week on this show until they spend money. But you spend a little bit, you get the right guys in here. Maybe you can make that trade for AJ Brown, who, by the way, Vrabel said still has a very close relationship with and loves AJ Brown. If he's
Mm.
not happy in Philly, get his ass to New England with Vrabel.
Really, you would want that.
Uh, I generally don't. I mean, I always love the Diva receivers from afar because it's not my team. Like
Yeah.
even at the end of the day when we had Randy Moss, right? Moss was great his first 2 years here, and by 2010 we had even 2009 he was great, but by 2010 we had to get rid of him because he quit.
Yeah.
He just had it. He just turned back into himself. Like I would hate to, but I think you rightfully pepper AJ Brown with 7 to 10 targets a game, which is you should be doing anyway. And especially when you have that quarterback, he's going to be happy. So I think it's the right formula. So we'll see. But yeah, in AJ Brown's case, yes, I would support that. Believe it or not. So that'd be awesome if that could actually happen. But very interesting. I think you're definitely right about the other head coaching situations. Josh, before I let you go, I know it's been an all football show today, but I do want to quickly, very briefly, and I'm just going to throw some numbers at you. Our Boston Celtics, our defending champion Boston Celtics. Well, they're 28 and 12, so you'd be like, well, what do you got to complain about? They're 28 and 12. What are you worried about? You always use the phrase with this team, they are playing with their food. Is that what's going on right now? Are they just screwing around? Because let me give you some numbers on the Celtics. Yes, they're 28 and 12. They're only 12 and 9 since the beginning of December. They're only 5 and 5 with a fill lineup that includes Kristaps Porzingis in it. Okay? They've already lost 7 games at home compared to 4 all of last year. They only lost 18 games all last year. They've already lost 12. And these don't, I don't think correlate, but they're 4 and 3 on Sundays and they're 2 and 4 on Wednesdays. You make anything? What do you make? Is there a problem with this team yet? Are we getting to the point where we got to start thinking there might be an issue?
Yeah, I know every week I'm like, I'm not worried, but now I'm starting to worry a little because now it looks like they're sleepwalking, right? Like
Yeah, they seem to be
the
proverbial.
hangover might be there now.
Yeah, the proverbial, for lack of a better term, they're dragging ass.
Yeah,
I
like
said
it
to one of
just
my
seems
friends.
like they came out in the beginning and they were like, no, we're gonna show you guys like, no, there's no hangover. We're pissed off. Like you did this to JT, you did this to JB. We're coming out. We're gonna kill all you. And they did. They were 19 and 4, and they were absolutely. So they started 19 and 4, and now they're 9 and 8. So you're a 500 team over your last 17 games,
Yep.
and you look like crap in some of them. Like
Yes.
it looks like you're not even showing up to the gym. You're getting out rebounded, which is yes, rebounding is a skill, but for the most part, it's a hustle stat. It's get in position, get your ass onto someone, and box out. You're just kind of standing there waiting for the ball to come to you. Guys are coming in. Offensive rebounds, like it's infuriating to watch sometimes because offensive rebounds are what kill you. They kill you if you can't finish out a possession. Like you got to finish out the possession. They're not doing it well. They're getting killed on the boards. And like you just said, when you have those 5 on the floor, JB, JT, Derek White, Drew Holiday, and KP, no one should be beating you.
No.
No one.
No. And
Like you're clearly the best team, the best starting 5 with those guys.
yeah. And what's happening also is that late in these games they're kind of falling apart too. Like I specifically tuned into the game they played in OKC a couple Sundays ago. That was 2 Sundays ago, I think,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. And they were right there with them, back and forth all the way through 3 quarters. In the fourth quarter, they scored like 5 points. They just disappeared,
Mm.
They got it taken to them. I don't know if conditioning's an issue or it's just laziness, like you say, but that's a product of this modern game now, where it's just like we're just gonna run up, jack up a 3, it doesn't fall, we're going back the other way, they jack up a 3. It's turned into a lazy game. It's not that great a product.
Scary because OKC does not play like that.
Right, so that it makes sense why they got beat by that team.
Right,
But
because SGA, he's not jacking up threes. He's middies, layups. He's a grinder. He's
an old school, a real basketball player. Yeah.
Right. He's going to take 18 footers because you know what? That's his bread and butter, and he doesn't care about the analytics.
Sounds like head case Jimmy Butler, kind of the same kind of player a little bit.
You know what? Jimmy Butler's another diva. He might as well be a wide receiver.
Yeah, the NBA's got a lot of NFL wide receivers floating around.
Well, you know what? Because it's like, dude, if you sign Jimmy Butler, you got to know ahead of time. All right, how long we got him? 3-4 years? Okay. Like, because eventually he just wears thin with everybody.
Yeah, that's why he's on like his 4th team now. So
right? Like, no, it might be his 5th.
Yeah, if it was based on talent, the Bulls would have never got rid of him.
Right? Bulls, Minnesota, the Heat, Philadelphia.
Right.
So it's like, and he just works his way out of every place.
Oh, he's going to be going somewhere else too, probably by the deadline, I would imagine.
Yeah.
And he'll be happy for a year and a half, maybe.
Yeah.
And then there you go. So, Celtics definitely something to watch there, bud. But either way, I just want to say great show as always. Thank you again for coming on. If you can make it back for like Tuesday next week, that'd be perfect. I'd like to do it early in the week next week while I got a 3-day weekend from work and all that. So, good stuff. Thank you again, and thanks for hanging. It's a little bit later than you probably just tell the wife that I apologize for keeping you so long. We're just blame it on me. It's all right. I can take it.
All right, we'll do.
All right. So, folks, it's the old Terranadome, and we will be back next week, and it'll be sooner than Friday. We're going to do a quick turnaround this time. Usually I try to record between Tuesday and Thursday. I don't like wait until Friday, but had some things come up this week. So, enjoy the games this weekend. And just so you know, our picks, once again, for you, Kansas City over Houston, Detroit over Washington, Philly over the Rams. Josh likes Baltimore to beat Buffalo. I like Buffalo to beat Baltimore. We shall see, folks. We will talk about it next week on the Terranadome. Have a great night or day.
Stop being a dick, Scott!